Good evening, all, and thank you very much for tuning in. And the Ultra Running Month in All India Running Motivation continues. And we have had the privilege of interviewing a few runners who are, the pride and privilege of India. So we had Arvind Bijwe for the first interview. We had Amit Gulia for the second interview, and today's runner, I would say, he's a youngster but who has gained lot of experience. Is upcoming star in ultra running, where people do ultra running after the age of 30. He started very young, and I would call him the Spartan of India. He was the first and the only runner who has completed the grueling race of 246 kilometers, which is the Spartathlon in Greece. He has actually also won the La Ultra 111 kilometers. Amazing, amazing. One of the toughest race in the world. He has also in the year 2020 he has not slowed himself during lockdown. During 2020, he has also did the fastest known time ascent of 5,290 meters, Friendship Peak in the Kulu Valley in 11 hours and 35 minutes. He has also won the Salaman Batti Lakes 160 kilometers ultra marathon in Faridabad in 2016. He is a man who, on his runs, who would spot a leopard, bear, and lot many other wild animals. It gives me great pride and privilege to introduce our guest for today, Mr. Kiran D'Souza. Good evening.
Good evening, Rajesh. So excited to be here and to be having a chat with you this evening.
Thank you so much for coming in. I know that you are a busy guy, running a lot and always training and practicing. So I'm very happy that you took the time to talk to us. So thank you for that.
No problem at all. I think we are all busy in our lives, and I'm excited to have a chat with you and to have this opportunity as well.
Thank you so much. So I was researching about you, and I was hearing few interviews where of you in YouTube, and I was actually surprised that when you were in Bangalore, you're a Bangalore boy, and you were studying in St. Joseph's College. You also were mentioned that you had some secret, I would say, a pact with the guard out there in your hostel, where you actually got the key of the gate. My question to you is this: very interesting. All the youngsters would want to know, how did you manage to get the key?
So I was studying in Bangalore, right? Like you mentioned in Joseph's, and I was in the hostel there, right? So I got into running, and the hostel was on college campus itself, and they used to lock the gate of the hostel by 6 in the evening, and it used to open only at I think around 7 next morning. So because I started running, and it had been a few, like I think after the first semester, second semester or something in college, when I had already started running quite a bit, and had done a few races, and the folks knew me in college as this guy who runs around and all that. I sort of like convinced the warden to give me a key so that I could, just open the lock of the hostel and get out early in the mornings to finish my run, because I was still supposed to, come back in time for mass at 7 in the morning. So I had to run usually before that and then come back. And that was a mistake on the warden's part, because after that I made many duplicates of that key.
So very like having a side business selling the key inside the
Exactly. So I
hostel.
think we had like a good 7, 8 copies, and a lot of us had copies of the key after that. So we used to not just use it in the morning; we used to use it in the nights as well to get out of the hostel.
Yeah, because St. Joseph's College, where it is, actually, it's quite near to brigades and MGs,
Yes,
and quite a few pubs out there. So, so I'm sure you enjoyed
Picos,
your weekends.
Picos. I used to go to. I started going to Picos, and I went there a lot
Uh,
from first year in college.
okay, fine. So you got a few people tweeting in. Your friend Amit Gulia saying hello, Mountain Man.
Oh,
We
hey,
got
Amir.
he has tuned in. I think both of you were participating in the Tough Men 24-hour run.
Yes,
So
I did meet
yeah,
him.
he said hello. We got runner Krishna who's saying hello to you. We got
Uh,
one
hey,
runner. His name
Krishna.
is
Hi.
Jagdeep Singh, who quite recently met you at the Toughman Stadium, and he said he
Yes.
missed clicking a selfie with you. We
Oh,
got
no worries.
Naveen
Next time we'll run together.
Naveen Sharma, who is saying hello to you. So a lot of people are tuned in to hear you. So you are a big cricket fan, follower of Saurav Ganguly. Did you play,
Yeah.
a lot of cricket during your school days?
Um, Not really, but I used to. I mean, like every other person, I was a cricket buff for sure. Following it, a fan of Ganguly because I play lefty as well, and
Okay.
I mean, early 2000s, Ganguly was definitely like the coolest guy to follow, especially if you're a left-handed batsman, right? So I used to follow a lot of cricket early 2000s, and I soon stopped following it as well. And as I started, I grew up a little, and I started following a lot more other sports. I never played seriously. It was just a fun thing to do with friends in the gullies or on wherever we could play.
That's nice. And the college where you are in, Joseph's, has a big sporting history also, and I'm sure they're very good in hockey and
Yes,
football.
yes,
Cricket
good.
also, yes, I think yes.
When I don't remember cricket, but I definitely remember them being good in football and hockey when I was in college. Yes,
Okay. I think Rahul Dravid was an alumni out there also. I think so. I'm not sure.
yes. I
Okay.
actually I've also heard these rumors. I don't know if he's from the same college as me or if he's from the school, Joseph
Yeah.
Pearl School. So
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's like doubtful, but Joseph's is Joseph's, right? You're there at school or
yeah,
college.
exactly.
You're a
It's
Josephite anyway. So,
exactly, exactly.
so, so running, your passion started actually. Yes, you're the first. Your first race was a 12K, if I'm not mistaken,
Yep.
and it was a DNF, and
No, it was not a DNF. It was a slow crawl to the finish line.
okay, a slow crawl to the finish line. I
Yeah,
mean, your first attempt at any distance resulted in you hating the distance. My question is that why so
yeah.
much of hate? You started the 12K, you had a 10K, you had a 100K, and your first attempt
Yeah.
was always hate. Why was that hate?
I think it's just because it I it was too painful, I think, the first time you're doing it. And at least in the initial years of me starting out, I was not I didn't have the best relationship with all the pain that you go through in these long races. Uh, so it was something that I didn't enjoy naturally because it was painful, and now I wanted to, come back and do.
Okay. It's an amazing progression. Your journey has been amazing. Like, you started with 12K, 10K, and suddenly you're running 100K, in Mont Blanc, and then 160K in Salomon Batti Lakes. So how did you
Yep.
manage such steep progression? Because you did a 10K, you did a 12K, I mean, a 12K, 10K, 100K. In between that, there was a 21K, which you did in Delhi. And then you suddenly went into from half marathon to ultra marathon. How did you manage
Yep.
such a huge progression, which takes years for anyone to achieve, but you managed it in like just in 1 year?
I think the honest answer would be just being a naive 19-year-old, basically, not knowing what I'm getting myself into. Um, like, I mean, I just generally I had no clue about it. I did, like you mentioned, right? I did a couple of 10Ks and I jumped into a half marathon, and I felt, I mean, like any runner, you look at what next, right? So I thought of a marathon after that, and I felt the jump from a 10 to a half marathon was not like very challenging. So I thought, you know what, 21 to 42 will not be challenging as well. I need something a little more challenging and a little more adventure and more exciting. So I thought, what could that be? And I thought 100 was the uh, answer, but a been bad mistake, stupid mistake to
Okay.
do that, but a fun experience for sure, and a good learning curve as well.
How was your experience at the Mont Blanc?
Oh, lovely. I think oh man. Oh, so after I did CCC, this was in 2015, and I've been telling people like the UTMB sort of has spoiled almost every other race experience for me. Mainly because I just love the community, the vibe, the people, the whole ambience of all the three towns that are involved. The support from people. It's pretty much the best I've experienced till date. So I mean, I had a blast. I think, however the race went, other than of course, the fact that I finished, it was a beautiful course. The fact that there were so many people out there, I loved every moment of it. And I've been to Chamonix, and it's become one of my favorite places in the world as well now. I've been to Chamonix so often, never get bored of it, and UTMB as well. I think I've run it twice, and I've been at the event in the valley when it's like two or three times as well. So yeah, I'm looking forward to probably going there this year as well.
Wonderful. And you were the top 100 finishers also of that race in the first attempt or the second attempt?
First year I think I was on 100 and something, 20, 30, something like that. I think last year is when I was like 50, 52 or something like
Wonderful. So, people running marathon itself is is a distance by itself, but you chose ultra marathons.
that.
You Whom were you inspired during that time when you chose this ultra marathons?
Yep. I think at that moment, probably Scott Jurek, because I was a big fan of a book called, everyone would know this book, Born to Run. And Scott Jurek is like the main protagonist, I think, one of the main protagonists in the book at least. So him for sure. And after that, I think um, this guy Yanis Kouros, I've definitely like looked up to him as well and his performances. And yeah, for a couple of these guys, pretty much. I mean, now of course, after later on, when in trail running, there was Killian and so many other guys. Kept I keep looking up to now.
Okay. So, you've experienced all the different types of surfaces. Which surface would remain the your favorite?
I mean, it has to be trail, right? Because that's what I'm pretty much doing full time and choosing to focus on putting all my giving all my attention to. But I would, other than trail, I would also say I I do find the track fascinating. Running around on a 400-meter loop is quite some experience, and yeah, it's quite an exciting event actually for me.
Okay. So your first ultra marathon was a 100K in Mont Blanc, or was it
No,
the Bangalore Ultra?
yeah, the Bangalore one. The Mont Blanc one was about 4 years later.
Okay. So tell us about your first attempt at 100K. How was it? And what were your learnings from that race?
It was painful. I did not enjoy that experience at all, and did not want to continue doing the 100Ks as well. But I think as with the 10, my first 10 to my first 12K, I just stuck to it and got on to the next one and the next one, and they got easier. And I started enjoying that whole getting into that whole situation of getting into that pain cave and digging in, coming out of it. Uh, and it's definitely like a very satisfying experience. I think running an easy race is no more enjoyable. I like to push hard and feel bent at the end of the race and feel like I've given it my all at the end of the race.
Okay. So you are primarily, I mean, self-coached, but were there anyone whom you're taking advice from during that time, which helped you,
Definitely.
to help in your career?
Definitely. I think uh, I started off so my first 12K started off with a friend who knew more about running than I knew, and he taught me how to get it past the 12K. And then after that, it uh, I I used to run a lot. I got into the running scene a little bit. I used to run a lot with pacemakers for a bit over there with Coach Pani and Bobby for a few years in Bangalore. We used to train on and off as well there. So a lot of learnings from there as well. And then as I got more and more into the longer distances and I met more people who were more experienced than me, I would just discuss whatever I could, whenever I could with them, and uh, try and just bounce ideas off and get pick their brains on what I'm doing, what I could do better, and it still happens. I mean, I still try and discuss my training plans with someone and try and bounce ideas off to see how I could tweak it and improve it and uh, do better with it.
Okay. So there's a runner out here who wants to know your best 12K timing.
Oh man, I have no idea. I don't even know. I mean, 12. You don't really run 12K races. You run 10K races usually, right? And
What's
I don't even remember when was the last time I ran a 10K. I don't know, 40 minutes, I guess, for a 10K. I can't remember. Or 37. I can't remember actually. No clue.
oh, okay? So 37, 40, amazing. So let's talk about your first win in I mean, I would say the not the win, I would say the La Ultra, which was 111 kilometers, which you won. You were the
Yep.
first Indian to win in 15 hours and 30 minutes. But that was on the second attempt, and the first attempt
Yep.
was where it was like a scene of a movie, उस कहानी में action, emotion, सब कुछ है, where you missed the cutoff line by 7 minutes. First,
Yep.
tell us about that, and how did you
Yep.
miss it? And what were
Yep.
your learnings, and how did you change your strategy to win the second
Yep.
time?
So I'm actually quite surprised you were able to dig up that I missed it by 7 minutes. I did not even remember that. So pretty cool. I so I La Ultra was at that time for me definitely a race I looked up to and something that I wanted to do at some point. It was like a race similar to Badwater or a Spartathlon or a UTMB. I had sort of put down and told myself someday I'll get to it. I had that opportunity. I think this was in 2014 finally, and definitely one of the biggest races and the most prestigious races to run around in the country. So I was real psyched with about going there. But also in the build up to it, in the years leading up to it, I had started doing all right in races and winning them, finishing them all right, feeling quite comfortable with the whole 100K distance.
Yeah.
And going to La Ultra, I sort of was a little, so to say, like, I mean, I was a bit cocky. I would just put it that way, I guess. I
Okay.
did not prepare as well as I should have prepared, and I paid the price for it by not finishing the not meeting the cutoff at uh, the first cutoff itself. This was, I think, around 50, 49 or 50 kilometers in.
Okay. So, what did you learn from there? I mean, about
Oh,
that, and
a
how did you
lot.
change your strategy? I mean, you did not. The second race was not like you finished it, you won it. So there has to
Yeah.
be a change. Tell us the what did you change?
I mean, the biggest thing was that I told myself for sure that I'll not, mm, um, I'll never take a race for granted and never just get to the start line just based on what I have done in the past, because every race is a fresh start. And if you don't put in all the hard work and put in all the time and sweat it out, you will naturally not do well, however good you have been in the past. So that was definitely one of my big learnings from there, that I need to I finish a race and that's the end of one uh, sort of one chapter, and I'm starting fresh for the next event. So that's what I did basically when I went back the next time. It was, I worked for it. I put in the training. The second time around though was also the year I did Spartathlon in 2016. So uh, doing Spartathlon, that was about a month and a half after La Ultra. So I was just for La Ultra, my only goal was to do it very comfortably. I think I did have a target of around 15 hours, but the idea was to finish the race feeling like I had a lot left in the tank, and that I could keep going, because essentially I had to run La Ultra 1.5 months later, and that was more than double the distance of La Ultra. So so that was my goal with the race at La Ultra, not just finishing it feeling very comfortable, because I was using that as a training run for Spartathlon. the reason I was using La Ultra was because one, Sparathlon was a very hard race, and I knew that even going in, like 246 kilometers is not easy, and the longest I'd run was 100 miles, and it was just 100-mile race. So it's 80 kilometers longer than the longest I'd gone, and so La Ultra at that time was the toughest thing I'd ever done because it had broken me. I had not finished it. So the idea was, go there, get done with it, do a good job with it, and not only I would get a good training run in, a hard training run in, I would also get that mental confidence that I would need for Sparathlon.
Okay. Fantastic. So, how was the feeling after when you won it?
Oh, it was amazing. I mean, again, like the win was great, but I felt even better with the fact that I had actually pulled it off and I felt good. Like I could have kept running. So the fact that I felt like that was definitely like the highlight of that day. Other than, of course, the fact that, I got past La Ultra and, didn't have to, I did not make a DNF and I actually got past the finish line. That was a Naturally, that was a good thing for sure.
Okay. So, any chance that you might upgrade yourself to 222 and 555? Maybe try to beat Ashish
For
Kasodekar's record?
for sure. I mean, I'm not in a hurry. You see, I mean, I got into the sport thinking about it as something I'll get into it for the long run, and I will definitely get to these races, get to the longer distances, get to. I mean, there are so many races to do, and I would rather focus on performance on a race than try to do too many races. And since there are a lot of races to do, I mean, it's hard to choose. So I'll get to it at some point for sure. It's definitely on my list of races I want to get to. The 222. I don't know about the 555. I think the 555 or the 333 will is many years from now. I'm 28 still. I think not until I'm in my 40s or something like that. Not so soon.
Yeah, Dr. Rajat has already upgraded it. If COVID was not there, then he would have done the 111, or the
Uh-huh.
1111 one. By
Oh
the time you
man,
reach your 40, it might be 2222. So
I
there's
know.
always a possibility with Dr. Rajat.
I know. That's always there with him for sure.
So yeah, since you're self-coached, and you are running ultra marathons, you would have had a lot of experimentation with your nutrition. So tell us about it.
Yep.
I know that currently your friends from US is helping with a gel which suits you. But tell us about your experimentation with nutrition. What went bad for you, and what is currently working for you? Which is because that is very important when it comes to doing all these races, including the 24-hour runs.
Yep. Yep. So, I mean, naturally, since I started running, a lot has changed with what I consume, and I remember consuming just making my nimbu panis and salt and sugar in the water kind of drinks in 2011 and 2012. Stopping by the road, drinking coconut water kind of stuff. Uh, just eating everything and anything, and it naturally changed a lot over the years. In 2000 and if I'm not mistaken, in 2015 or 15 is when I think 15 is when I sort of associated with Unived, and I sort of started working with the products that they supported me with, and whether it was and back then it was the run durings and the pre's and the post, not the post run during and the pre. So that's what I did a lot during stuff like CCC and stuff like CCC and Bhati Lakes. A lot of the pre and during, and of course a lot of stuff at the aid stations as well. As I started getting access, before that I didn't have access to all these running nutrition things like gels or anything, because one, you don't get it in India, too expensive when you get it, so I could never get it anyways. Uh, so then, of course, with Unimed, I started doing that. Then in 16, Unimed was working on the gels and stuff, and I got to use the gels during Spartathlon. So that's what I did. I did some of the gels, and I did the pre and the during the race. and of course a lot of the nutrition that you get at aid station, because naturally you can't do long races on gel just I mean, at least I cannot do long races on just gels and powders. So I also use what is available at aid stations. Usually, until date, I've pretty much always done my races without any crew. So I've always had I have not you cannot go and, like, have your own food lying somewhere at an aid station. So I've always what I've done is sort of read up on what will be available at an aid station of a race before I get there, and try to practice some of that in training. So let's say, if, for example, if I when I ran in Hong Kong, I knew there was going to be rice balls and some soup kind of thing available. So I tried to do something like that. I get a little used to it, because that is what I do at aid station. When I'm running in at UTMB, you get access to things like uh, bacon and cheese and chocolates. So bread. So I try to do a little bit of that. So just get a little used to what's available at aid station, and of course during the runs between aid stations, it's a lot of gels, a lot of powders. um, since Parathlon, I've I've had access to using a lot of the the Durings and the gels by Unived, so that has allowed me to rely a lot on that, and also make a good uh, nutrition plan for myself based on the products that I'm able to I have access to. So I've sort of figured out what gels work for me, um, what powders work for me, in what quantities and what duration. So I have sort of, and it changes depending on the weather conditions a little bit, but I sort of have a basic game plan with it. I know I do, for example, I know I do about 400 calories in an hour in a long race. So anything longer than 10 hours, I know I'm doing about 400 calories an hour. So my goal is to get those 400 calories an hour from different sources usually. And they are always gels, powders, and some solid food.
Okay, that's wonderful. Any particular favorite gel of yours, which is like all-time favorite, which you
Oh,
always consume?
um, I so Unilever has been coming out with some lot of cool flavors in the last 1 year, if I'm not mistaken. And I mean, I've been enjoying, having a range of different flavors. So like the caramel, the vanilla sea salt was a good one when I was running in 2019, when I was running uh CCC. So that
Okay.
was a good one then, and then the chocolate ones. But I don't like too much of the chocolate ones. Usually, I prefer like the other flavors, like the cherry and the berries and the vanilla, and because I get to do a lot of chocolate as regular chocolate anyways. So yeah,
Okay. That's nice. A lot of
watermelon.
ultra runners are chocolate buffs. I know. Courtney Dauwalter definitely loves her sweets.
Yep,
Mike McKnight also likes his chocolate. A few other people also. I mean, they are quite big chocolate buffs. But talking
yep,
about
yep.
nutrition, Amit Gulia was saying that in India, ultra runs. When you look at the aid station, it is like a party. Where in other countries it is not as big a party as in India. What has been your experience when it comes to food and aid stations?
I mean, so my goal with an aid station is very simple: get in and get out. Because I see sitting at an aid station, if you don't like, try to minimize your time at an aid station, and whatever you can. If you need to sit and chill out, it's all right, as long as you really need that. For me, I don't like sitting in races, so I like to get into an aid station, standing, get what I need, and walk out. I don't usually like to sit. It's very rarely that I've sat down at an aid station and relaxed at an aid station. I try to minimize it to seconds and few minutes max.
Okay. So
I mean,
you
I
don't
actually,
like.
I find the aid stations in some of the big races abroad also a party, but not in the same way I think Amit is saying. I find it a party because it's a lot of people and spectators and people cheering you on, and people out there, spectating and watching, and uh, It's like a buffet at all the big races that you can choose from. So I find it a party in that sense.
Okay, good. So a few fun questions for you, Karen. Why are you called a mountain man?
uh, I guess I mean I've been living in the mountains here for like 6 years, right? Almost 6 years. Just pretty much here to run and train full time. So I guess and also the last since I've come here, I've hardly sort of moved out to run around in the plains. So I guess that could be the reason.
Okay. So your relationship with wild animals on your runs has been fantastic. So tell us some of the spottings you have done. In your runs in you're in Manali, so it's a great place. So tell us some
Yeah.
spottings you have done.
I mean, I'm lucky to not have call, close calls with any wild animal as such. The wildest animal is cow. Sometimes that I get scared of, but I'm definitely running around in these areas where I know there are bears in the forest and probably leopards as well. I last year, not last year, this year in Feb, I was in Kelong and we spotted ibex up on the mountains, grazing. But like last year, I was running this route called I was running up Hamta Pass in the night, and I mean that's bear territory, like proper bear territory. You get bears over there on the roads in the night. I was lucky again. I did not, come and have a close encounter with it. But so a friend of mine had come on the trail from the roadhead. He came on the trail with me for about two kilometers, and
Okay.
then he turned around and came back because I was actually going to go across Hamta Pass and then Rohtang and come back to Manali. So he turned around and went back to Manali. And on his way back, he came across a bear, like right there, like he saw it. Um, so we naturally, passed that bear earlier as well, but we just didn't see it. Usually, I'm not like, I'm always head down and keep moving, and hope I don't see one right in front of me. I've seen a couple of foxes running around and a lot of birds. Monals, I keep seeing them. It's the state bird of Himachal. Keep seeing monals in the forest often. I definitely come across all the pug marks of a bear especially in the winters, early winters before they hibernate, I guess, or late in like probably around this time when they're coming out of hibernation. Yeah,
Okay. So Karen, do you like running alone or with friends?
it's both. I think being in Manali, I definitely enjoy running with myself. That's the reason why I can be there. I can keep running and keep going out and putting in those uh, whatever 100K, 200, 150K weeks, whatever. So I definitely do enjoy it, but I think uh, every now and then it's always lovely to run with people, and I try to tell whoever I can, just come up to Manali and we run around there. And lately, in the last few months, people have been coming up more often since the lockdown and stuff opened up, right? So been meeting more people, running around with more folks, and I've been enjoying that as well. Yeah.
Okay. So which body part hurts the most in your ultra runs?
Uh, my arms,
Your arms. Okay.
my
Uh,
arms. After when I finish a race, usually I can never lift my arms or that the shoulders and arms hurt.
okay. So Maggie noodles or gels in La Ultra?
Oh, during the race,
Yeah.
I mean Maggie would require me to stop, so gels.
Oh, okay. Uh, Kieran, and your hallucinations, because ultra after 24 hours hallucination is part of it. What are the
Yeah,
funny hallucinations? Maybe you don't know, but people have told you, which you have had.
I mean the only race above 24 hours has been Sparathlon, and there have been a couple of races close to 24 hours. In Sparathlon, more than hallucinating, I was, dozing off while running, and I was just like swirling on the road. That happened around like 3, 4 in the morning, and that was not a pleasant experience. And actually, that also happened to me once while I was once or twice while I was training for Sparathlon, because I used to run at a lot of odd times when I used to train for Spartathlon. So in the build up, sometimes I would not sleep all night and just go for a run at 4 in the morning without sleeping all night, and then I would like doze off on my run. Um, but yeah, I've not had I don't know whether it's lucky or unfortunate, but I've not had too many hallucination stories. Yeah,
Okay. So fully supported, with full oxygen capacity, how many days do you think you can run?
I would love to go on and keep running forever, but I think my legs can't handle it. Um, I mean, I don't know. It also comes down to what you consider running. I think if it had to just be a slow jog, it could be a fair amount, probably. I think, and I mean, at least 1.5, 2 days, I guess, if
One
if
and
my
a half, two
legs don't
days.
give up, and I keep
Oh,
doing a slow jog. But at the moment, I think I'll not last 15 hours.
okay. Music
Yeah.
choices. Do you listen to music while doing long runs?
I'm pretty um I'm pretty bad with concentrating on anything other than my running while running. I do listen to music, but it's mostly like ambient sound that I'm not really processing it. It's just uh sound in the background. Like I can listen to one song on loop for 3 hours on a run and not get bored of it. So I like, for example, I was doing a race I was not doing a race. I was doing um a project last year on Mount Deotiba. It was a project I did from the road head. I went up to the top of 6,000 meter peak, and then came back. So that took me like about 19 hours, 19 and a half hours. And while I was doing that, I was listening to 5 songs on the whole like 19 hours. I think there was some Jack Johnson, there was a MF Doom, and there was, I think, some Pink Floyd in it. So
Okay.
yeah,
That's nice. Being a Bangalore boy, I'm sure. I mean, I also can relate to Pink Floyd. So, Pink
yeah,
Floyd, we can
yeah,
listen on loops. I was introduced
exactly.
to Pink Floyd in Bangalore. So,
Oh wow, oh
so,
wow.
so
I mean,
Spartathlon.
yeah, I remember like listening to pretty much just Pink Floyd sitting in like Picos and on a warm
Yeah,
afternoon and drinking away beer. Huh?
yeah, yeah. My favorite Honda's Purple Haze. So, Purple Haze, I used to go there
Oh,
a lot.
oh, nice. Oh, nice.
So, let's get back to serious questions. Spartathlon and Kiran, tell us about this race. You completed with 2 hours and 35 minutes to spare. Tell us about the experience of running it. And most importantly, you ran in pain for the last 50 kilometers. Just tell us about it. And also, your crew member was your mother. So, which is amazing. And also,
Yep,
tell us about the race, running in pain, and also your your crew, which was your
yep,
mother.
yep, yep. So it was one of those classic races, right? Like as an ultra runner, you definitely want to take off a few classic races off that checklist of yours, and Sparathon is right up there. It amazing history, amazing storyline that's attached to it, and an amazing race. And the experience from the time you get to Athens is first class. Like you get there, you stay in the hotel, and you're staying with all the runners. It's an amazing experience, and you start the race, and the whole course. It's been on the same course for almost now it would be like 40 years, I think, and it passes through the same towns. People have grown up with this race. They've been seeing this race every single year, following it, cheering for you. So it's. I mean, you get to go and live through that, and you're a small part of, a lot of stories and history. So I love that race. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it every bit of it. E- Even the last marathon where I had to pretty much just walk to the finish line. And that I think still probably is one of the most proudest sort of races for me, because it's that one race where I felt like truly felt like I've given it all, and not I couldn't have done anything more than what I did in during the race. to cross that finish line. So I enjoyed that race. I loved the last 100, 200 meters into the finish line before in Sparta before you get to the statue of uh, I think King Leonidas. It's a party on the whole street. The whole street's decorated, and I mean, walking and running across, and the emotions are definitely high at that point, and I definitely enjoyed that whole experience there. Uh, where about my so I had sort of like had tendonitis on one foot, and another foot was sort of swollen up. So both my ankles were pretty like bad. So the last marathon I couldn't run it because of I was not actually able to step on one of the feet. I can't remember which one now, but one of the feet it was too hard to just step on. So that foot was just like a limping, like a leg which I was a useless leg. I was just limping on one leg, just dragging myself. And if I'm not mistaken, the marathon took me about uh, six, seven, 6, 7 hours, 7 hours or something, like the slowest marathon I've ever probably done. And I mean, it was that I told myself one thing, I could have stopped or not, or and got into the death bus. Uh, I told myself one thing because I had put in a lot of effort to get there, so there was no option of not finishing. The only option was that the only way I don't finish is if the bus catches up to me and the times or I miss the cutoff and don't make it. That was the only way of not finishing. And so I was like mentally prepared to suck it up and keep going pretty much. And I did that. About my mom crewing, that was definitely like I think a pretty cool experience. If I'm not mistaken, that was the first time my mom had seen me at a race. Oh no, she saw me at the race the previous year at Bhati as well. But this was the first time for her, like hands-on being involved in during the race. Unfortunately, we couldn't figure out too much travel and all for her, so she could only be there at 2 points, once at 80 and once around 125, and then at the finish line. So I didn't rely on her too much as a crew to provide me gear or anything I needed. I relied on her more as that emotional crew member, emotional support to see a friendly face, see my mom basically, and have that I mean keep me sort of psyched and keep me motivated to keep pushing and not give up. So it was good to see her at these 2 points and know that at the finish she was waiting there, and I could just keep I had to keep running and meet her running and not in the bus.
Wonderful. I mean, how did you manage your nutrition at that time? Did you rely on the checkpoints, or were you carrying,
So
or you had something
I did
there
both.
figured out?
I did both. So so Sparathlon has, if I'm not mistaken, 72 checkpoints or
Yeah.
73 checkpoints, and each checkpoint sort of acts like a aid station or a mini aid station. Basically, every 2-3 kilometers there is some kind of aid station, because I mean it seems like a lot, but it gets very hard eventually. Like there are times you're running 3 kilometers in half an hour and 3 kilometers in 40 minutes, and just it can be spaced out quite a bit. And in a road race like this, in such a long race, it makes sense to have them spaced out so close by. And so what I did is I figured out which aid stations what I could drop, and I made my game plan accordingly. And I had every marathon, if I'm not mistaken, I had a drop bag which had enough stuff for the next marathon. So what I picked up at 42 was enough till 80, and then I picked up something at 80, which was enough till 120. Something like that is what I did, and I dropped enough like gels and peanut butter, not peanut butter, ultra butter, uh, and the run during at for each marathon basically.
Okay, that's wonderful. So, your Amit was talking about his experience that unfortunately it rained at that time. Uh,
Hmm.
Something like that happened to you in your race also?
No, I think the only thing was that it was pretty hot, but that was something that I was all right with. At that time, I had trained myself, to be able to be comfortable. Like my train myself to be comfortable running in the heat. So I ran in Delhi heat in the month and a half leading after La Ultra. Basically, all my training was, getting comfortable with the heat. So I used to run in Delhi on the Gurgaon Faridabad highway, which is like there's no shade, completely open, and I would only run between 8 in the morning to 4 in the evening. So after the hottest times of the day, and I would run like 50 Ks and 10 Ks, whatever was the distance I had to run, all at that time. So basically to get ready for the heat. So the heat is what I prepared for, and I didn't find that too much of a hassle. Actually, I found it too cold because I was not very comfortable. I wasn't well prepared for the cold. So in the night when we got down the valley, I found it too cold. But weather-wise, I had dealt with it fine. Actually.
Okay. I mean, you also held a unique record of a very few people who are under the age of 25 completing that race, which is also
Yeah.
amazing. You also created a record for the fastest 100 mile by an Indian while running the Spartathlon. So tell us,
Yep.
what is the secret of Karen's speed? Because you say that your hands ache a lot after a big race. How do you manage such a tremendous speed while running long, long distances?
I mean, I wouldn't still say I'm fast enough because there's a long way and a lot of people faster and a lot of. I mean, I need to get a lot faster. But essentially, it's working for that. It's like any other any other race. It's like a 10K. You train to run faster, and that's what you do for a marathon, and that's what you do for a 50, and it's what you do for 100 or any distance for that matter, right? You train what you train and do the kind of training you need for achieving the goals that you set for yourself. So it's whatever, whether it's the interval trainings, it's strength training, it's mobility, it's long runs, whatever it is, and a lot of times I think it starts off with identifying your weakness. For example, if someone who runs a 2:30 marathon or a 2:15 marathon gets into running a 100K, their weakness would not be speed, their weakness would be a lot of, uh, you know, uh, the endurance to run 100K, the endurance in the muscles to be able to accept that kind of pounding for 100 kilometers. So instead of working on speed, someone they would have to work on that side of things. For me, I work on that less. I need to work on speed more. So it's just understanding your weaknesses and working for that, essentially for your goal. And my goals are to race and try to run good times at races, and I try to work for that.
Okay. I mean, having run such long distances, have you looked at yourself running a marathon, and at a good speed, and maybe trying for to be in the Indian team for for Olympics?
I mean, I haven't looked that far as the Olympics yet, but I have definitely looked at, and I definitely it's right there on my mind all the time, pretty much these days, of running fast marathon times. Because essentially, if you look at the way the sport has developed globally, look at the 100Ks, look at the 100 miles, look at the trail running scene all over, and pretty much every distance up to the 100 mile, it's become so competitive and so fast. And everyone is all these athletes are capable of running real fast marathon times as well. So if I want, and I'm trying to compete with these people, so I need to also focus on, running fast marathon times. I don't know if when I'll run a marathon and when I'll get to that, but I'm definitely working on running on the training that is required to run a fast marathon, and at least for the kind of running I do.
Okay.
So essentially, speed training.
Okay. So you are also interested in mountaineering, and you have done a lot of courses, and you have, in
Yeah.
2020, you had the fastest known ascent for the Friendship Peak in Kulu Manali at
Yep.
11 hours, 35 minutes. Has this
45.
training helped in for 11 hours, 45 minutes? Has this training of mountaineering and climbing of peaks helped you in your long runs?
Uh, I would say it's sort of the other way around. I think a lot of the running I've been doing over the years have been helping me to get my mountaineering goals because mountaineering I mean, I'm not yet a mountaineer. I've just done like two peaks, but um, I've had these mountaineering dreams over the years, and I've been focusing on running those. So the all the running I've done over the years is allowing me to sort of, you know, realistically work towards these mountaineering goals and dreams that I have and try to achieve them. And the running is also giving me the confidence of my fitness and how what I can actually pull off, and how I can actually go about it in terms of pushing it hard, like the FKT that you just spoke about.
Yeah. Okay. Any Mount Everest dreams also coming in your head?
I mean, the definitely, and yes and no, in the sense at some point I'll get to it, but like ultra running, right? There are so many mountains to climb and uh so many epic things that can be done that Everest is probably like not the thing on my mind at the moment. There are other, you know, peaks I want to climb and other routes I want to do, and I'll get to it at some point in the future, but no idea when. I mean,
Okay.
definitely, you know, the more I get into mountaineering, I think I would want to go up to the highest point on Earth, right? So,
Okay.
but I don't have a
Now,
timeline to it as such.
the latest trend is Everesting. Have you tried that?
What's that?
Everesting is something, climbing the height of the Mount Everest, but in a different way. But
Okay. I mean, I've done that in races,
okay,
um, but I've not done it like in I have not called it like that out.
okay,
But I could probably do something like that. Like I have a big 2,000-meter climb in the from my house pretty much. So I could probably like do 4 laps of that route.
okay. So you have had many podium finishes, which you have won the races. Uh, which one was your most memorable one? Which you loved the most.
It has to be Laltra, I guess. I mean, uh, I in the whole backstory into getting into Laltra and getting winning it and all probably has to be Laltra.
Yeah, as I said earlier, कहानी में action, emotion, सब कुछ है ना. So,
Exactly.
okay. So, training in races and going to races, not only India but also in abroad, you would have met many international runners. Tell us those exciting moments, whom you have met, and had a chance to exchange notes and ideas, and how you have been influenced by all of them.
Oh, I mean, so many people, right? Like, I mean, I became friends with this guy called Dan. Why when so Dan used to live in India and he became a good friend. We ran a bit in a couple of races. He came to Manali once. We ran there. He runs for the British 24-hour team. So I mean, he was one of my first like good friends, I guess. You know, uh, and then there, I mean, lately, there's over the last few years, I've gotten to hang around with guys like in the trail running space, at least guys like Hayden, and you know, getting to run with them and train with them and talk to them and exchange notes all the time. So it's really amazing to see uh, all these guys who are way, way, way better than me, and you know on how they live their lives, pursue their dreams, and work hard for it. The kind of lifestyle they live, so different, and yet so sort of similar in terms of how they go about it with their running. So it's definitely very inspiring, and you know, a lot to take from there.
Okay. Jagdeep Singh had two questions. One is that were you running in Worli Sea Link a few years back? You can answer
Oh,
by yes or no.
um, I don't think so.
No, he don't. Okay. Second question by him is that any thoughts of breaking 7 hours for 100 kilometers?
Oh, I mean, definitely, of course. I think I mean, it's clearly very achievable. It just, I would like to attempt 100K and, you know, attempt it in that fashion itself. But when, I don't know because like there's so many things to do. So I would like to get to it for sure. But when I run 100K, it would be, you know, to run a real fast 100K.
Okay, wonderful. Tell us about your thoughts on strength training because we know that you run a lot and your average mileage is around 200 kilometers in a week. How do you put in strength training during those weeks or in a
I
week? How
know.
do you
So
fit in?
200K has been a long time since I've actually not a lot. The last I touched 200K a week was last in March last year. So
Okay.
200K is a bit much because of Manali, right? So Manali, I try to a good block is if I'm touching like 140 to 160K weeks. It's with because you throw in a good 6,000 meters elevation as well, right?
Yeah.
Um, so strength training is it's all planned. Like I have that's why so I like to plan my whole annual year calendar as such, right? And that allows me to find time to give time to things like strength training. When I'm doing a lot of mileage and a lot of time when I'm running like 20-hour weeks and all that, then it's hard to do strength training. I don't do it then because it you're usually just broken all the time. I try to do small, light body weight kind of things if I do. But it's been the off season when I sort of focus more on strength training. So, after my last phase of the year, I take a break, I get back into training for the coming year, and that's when I focus a lot more on strength training and do a lot more of
Okay. So, Kieran's recovery plan. Any tips for recovery? How do you recover from a long race or a long training
that.
session?
Just listen to your body. And for me, I need to sleep a lot. So that's what I try to get in. Sleeping a lot, uh, eating well. I I don't drink enough water. That should be up there, but I think you should do that as well. Hydrate well. But for me, it is to sleep well. Whether it's regular training, whether it's before a race, after a race, I need to get in whatever amount of hours of sleep I need to get in. I mean, there's no number to it because it changes. There are times when I sleep as like 6 hours. Actually not 6 hours, 7 hours. But there are times I also do 12-hour sleeping days because I'm just too tired from all the training. So it depends on what I need.
Okay. So there is no relaxation plan. Only sleeping is the best way of relaxing.
I mean, it's like between training sessions, like if I'm training in the morning and evening, then the idea is to be as relaxed in the day, as because you have another session in the evening. It's not, and it's like it's easy to do it once, but when you're doing it every day, day in day out for multiple weeks, it gets harder. So then the idea is to try to not to overdo anything. Just try to relax, uh, sit around, read a book, get food ready. I mean, anyways, you have enough to do all day. Get an email in there, figure out trying to figure out logistics and planning for the next project and next event. So that goes on in between all these runs.
Give
Um,
interviews.
give an interview, but generally, I mean, nothing specific to relax. Like in the night, I just want to sleep, and in the day, I just want to like kick back and sit. So if I'm doing nothing, then it's just sitting around, being pretty
Wonderful.
as lazy as possible. Yeah.
So, any advice for youngsters and any athlete out there who wants to take up, ultra running as a sport? Five top tips from Kiran.
Oh, um, start off slow, take it easy with it because I think too many. I rushed into it, and I think too many people rush into it. So take it slow. It's getting very competitive every year. So if you want to run seriously, focus on running fast as well. Have fun. You have to have fun because if you're not having fun, you will not do this day in and day out for many years. So have fun, enjoy it. It doesn't. It becomes work, but enjoy the whole process. Enjoy that work, and yeah. Uh, don't run too many races because I think that's another thing people do, running too many races, especially too many hard races. So you can run races and have them as training races and stuff, but not too many hard races. Um, what would the last one be? Um, do other things as well. Like don't just let running be all that you do. I mean, like do some other sport, do something else. Like for me, I like to climb. Mountaineering is lately what I've been doing as well. So on something else as well. Cycling and stuff like that.
Okay, wonderful. So it's amazing that we have been speaking for 1 hour, and it has been such a nice time talking to you and hearing your thoughts on a lot of things, running, nutrition, training, beer also. So it's nice. So any final thoughts before we sign off? Because I know that you had a tough day today. Yeah, I ran 2 times a day today, in morning and afternoon. So yeah,
No,
that is what.
I ran. No, I ran once today, but it was
Okay.
we drove down to Dharamshala and then went running for a few hours in the mountains and then came back. Yeah, and drove back.
Okay.
So
Okay.
like I got
So,
back only I think around 6:30. Oh, actually I did run in the evening as well. Yeah, yeah. I forgot
yeah.
that.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh man.
Yes, the Strava does not lie. So, you got a lot of. I
Yeah.
follow you on Strava, so or I've seen your Strava profile.
Oh,
So
okay.
it does not lie. So I know that you have ran 2 times a day today.
Yeah, yeah.
So
I completely forgot my evening run that I did. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
So there is one question. We got Nigel Clemens, who is tuning in from Philippines, and he is asking
Oh wow.
about. Before we sign off, just wanted to know about your body weight workouts. Are they cardio or muscle building focused? So any
Less
thoughts on
less
that?
cardio, more proper just strength training. No cardio. It's proper like I try to lift as I try to focus on lifting more heavier kind of weights or focusing on power, not cardio because I mean I'm running enough already.
Okay.
So
So the
it's trying to do opposite things.
so the six pack you have is a natural one.
I mean that's just a part of the lifestyle and all the running and all just part of the training.
Okay, fine.
The
So
biscuits pop out.
so thank you very much, Karen. It has been such a wonderful time talking to you, and I must say that a lot of people have tuned in and they've heard about you, and also heard you speak, and they've been inspired hearing you. We got the latest one was Dr. Sheetal Kole. She's from Pune, and she and her husband are a team, and they have run quite a number of ultras, including the Ladakh marathon. So they have tuned in and they have actually conveyed their hellos to you. So thank you very
Oh,
much for
hi guys.
tuning in. And are you training tomorrow?
Yes, I am. I
Okay,
mean, I'm also traveling back to Manali tomorrow, so I'll try to squeeze in a run in the morning before I leave.
okay, wonderful. So thank you very much. If you can just stay online, let me just thank my audience. Any final thoughts before I sign off?
No, just thanks a bunch for having me and for our chat. I've enjoyed our conversation and thank you for having your patience with chasing me and actually inviting me and having me over finally. So yeah, I've enjoyed it and I hope it's of value to the
Okay,
the folks watching on your end as well.
thank you so much. Just a minute, I'll be online. Thank you very much for coming in, all of you. It's been pleasure, and we have got can't believe he's so young. When he actually completed the Spartathlon, 246 kilometers at the age of what 25, lesser. So amazing runner. It's been such a wonderful time talking. The ultra running month continues. We will have the last interview by next weekend, and we'll have Munish Dev, also La Ultra finisher, and we'll be chatting to him. So stay tuned, and thanks for coming in.